This is Rummy's Corner. Who were the top 5 heavyweight champions during the 2000s? We're referring to the decade here, not the entire century to date. In the 2000s, there were 17 men who held claim to at least a portion of a major heavyweight championship between January 1st, 2000 and December 31st, 2009. For the purposes of this video, we are specifically comparing heavyweight championship reigns and championship bouts that happened during this particular stretch. And for our purposes here, the WBO was not considered a major world title at the beginning of the decade, but it was by the end of the decade. The tangible point in time as I see it came in September 2004 when it made the full jump, but we will include the entire chronology of the WBO, and I will provide explanations on that point as we move along. Lennox Lewis began the decade as the undisputed world heavyweight champion, and he was in possession of all 3 major belts of the time, the WBA, WBC, and IBF. Lennox also held a rightful claim as the lineal world heavyweight champion. Meanwhile, Vitali Klitschko was the WBO champion to start the decade. Vitali lost the WBO belt to Byrd in April 2000, and that same month the WBA stripped Lennox of their title. By July of that year, Lewis made 2 defenses of his unified championship, and the following month in August, Evander Holyfield won a somewhat controversial decision against Ruiz to win the vacant WBA strap. In October, Wladimir Klitschko avenged his brother and won the WBO belt from Byrd, and Lewis closed out the year beating David Haye to defend his unified championship. In March 2001, Holyfield lost the WBA belt in his rematch with Ruiz. And a month later, in April, Lewis lost the unified WBC IBF crown when he was stopped by Hasim Rahman, who also earned a rightful claim to the lineage. Lewis won back the WBC, IBF, and lineal championships when he stopped Rahman in their rematch in November 2001, and Ruiz defended his belt in his trilogy fight with Holyfield, which resulted in a somewhat controversial draw. Meanwhile, Wladimir twice defended the WBO belt that year. In 2002, Wladimir made 3 defenses of the WBO belt. Lewis defended his unified championship against former champion Iron Mike Tyson, and Ruiz made 1 defense of the WBA. Lewis vacated the IBF in September 2002, and Byrd defeated Holyfield to win the vacant IBF strap in December 2002. In March 2003, Ruiz lost the WBA belt against Roy Jones Jr., and 1 week later, Wladimir lost the WBO belt against Corey Sanders. Lewis defended his WBC and lineal heavyweight championship against Vitali Klitschko in June 2003. And Byrd defended the IBF belt when he won a controversial decision against Frezo Quendo in September. And the following month in October, Sanders vacated the WBO belt. In February 2004, Lennox retired and relinquished the WBC belt, which caused a break in the lineage. And that same month, Roy Jones vacated the WBA belt, which was in turn awarded to the interim champion, John the Quiet Man Ruiz. In April 2004, Lamon Brewster beat Wladimir to win the vacant WBO belt. 2 weeks later, Vitali beat Corey Sanders to win the vacant WBC belt. For the rest of 2004, Vitali and Brewster each made a title defense, and it also saw Byrd make 2 defenses of his IBF belt, including a controversial draw against Andrew Golota. Ruiz likewise made 2 defenses of his WBA belt, including a controversial victory against the very same Andrew Golota. In 2005, Brewster made 2 defenses of the WBO belt, including a first-round victory against Golota, and by this point in time, the WBO was now officially recognized as a major world title on par with the Big 3. Vitali did not have a single fight all year, and near the end of the year he officially retired, and Hasim Rahman was elevated up from interim champion to the real McCoy. Meanwhile, Byrd had made just one defense that year, and after losing in what wound up being a no contest against James Toney, Ruiz would lose the WBA belt in December '05 when he lost against the Beast from the East, Nikolai Valuev. In April 2006, Wladimir Klitschko defeated Chris Byrd to win the IBF belt. That very same month, Siarhei Liakhovich beat Brewster to win the WBO belt. Rahman lost his WBC belt in August '06 when he was stopped by Oleg Maskaev. And Liakhovich lost his WBO belt when he was stopped in the 12th and final round in dramatic style by Shannon the Cannon Briggs. Meanwhile, Valuev made two defenses of the WBA that year. Oleg defended the WBC, and Vlad made a defense of his IBF belt. Valuev made another defense in January 2007, and then he lost the WBA belt by 12-round majority decision against Ruslan Chagaev in April. Sultan Ibragimov won a 12-round unanimous decision to win the WBO belt from Briggs that June, and later that year Ibragimov defended that belt against Holyfield. Meanwhile, Maskaev did not fight in '07, and Vladimir made two defenses of the IBF belt that year, including his rematch victory against Brewster. Chagaev defended the WBA in January '08, and later in the year he suffered an injury where he became WBA champion in recess. Valuev would go on to win the vacant WBA belt in a rematch with Ruiz, and Valuev defended that title late in the year with a somewhat controversial win against Holyfield. Sam Peters stopped Maskaev in March to win the WBC belt. Ibragimov lost the WBO in a unification bout with Vladimir in early '08, and Vlad went on to defend that unified championship twice more that year. In October '08, Vitali Klitschko made an unexpected comeback where he defeated Peter in his first bout in nearly 4 years to recapture the WBC belt. Vladimir fought just once in 2009 when he scored a stoppage win against Ruslan Chagaev in June, which established a new lineage. In November of that year, Valuev lost his WBA championship when he was beaten by former cruiserweight champion David Haye. Meanwhile, Vitali defended the WBC belt 3 times that year, the last of which happened in December against Kevin Johnson, and that was the final heavyweight title fight in the Double O's. Oof, Maron. That was another very messy championship path that decade. We did not have a single undisputed heavyweight world champion after Lewis lost that distinction in April 2000, and the lineal championship itself was vacant for more than 5 years. The mess contributes to this being another tricky one all around. Choosing between 4, 5, and 6 is tricky, and I think the top 2 spots are likewise very tough to call. The 4 and 5 spots wind up being between Ruiz, Byrd, and Valuev. All 3 of these guys had a couple of verdicts that were controversially and favorably scored their way. Officially, Valuev had more championship wins than either of the other 2, including 2 championship victories against Ruiz. I think that gives Valuev a clear edge over Ruiz here. It's close, but for me, Ruiz does not make the cut. So at number 5, I have Valuev, and at number 4, I have Chris Byrd. It's close, and at the end of the day, I rate Byrd much higher than Valuev. But in this exercise, based on championship fights alone, I think Byrd has the edge in quality based on when he faced the guys he fought in championship contests, and I believe the difference in quality was just enough to put Byrd over. Number 3 is the easiest choice in the decade, and for me, that is Dr. Iron Fist, Vitali Klitschko. He had a brief championship run earlier in the decade, and another run to end the decade. Were it not for his retirement, which accounted for nearly 4 years of inactivity, Vitali could have potentially landed the top spot had he stayed healthy and in form. But as it turns out here, those 4 years cost him. Vitali is clearly a level above the 14 champions I'd rank below him, but he is likewise clearly a notch below the 2 I have ranked above him. Lennox and Wladimir represent the trickiest decision of the decade. Lewis was the dominant force at the beginning of the decade, and Wladimir was the dominant force at the end of the decade. Technically, Wladimir was undefeated in championship fights, given the fact that the WBO was not recognized as a major world title during his first reign. Wladimir likewise has 2 more championship victories than Lennox, and 2 more successful defenses. Lewis, of course, also had the setback against Rahman, which he avenged in dramatic style. At the end of the day, however, I think the quality of Lewis's ledger is far superior here, in large part due to the strength of his victories against Grant, Tua, and especially Vitali. I personally believe the Grant victory tends to be unfairly downplayed with hindsight, and I otherwise believe victories against Tua and Vitali are better than any victories Wladimir held during his reign in the time frame. Add in the Rahman revenge win, and the Mike Tyson victory, where Tyson was still recognized as a legit top 3 heavyweight at that time, and I think Lennox clearly has an edge over Wladimir. So officially, I have Wladimir at number 2, and Lennox at number 1. So here are my final rankings of the top 5 heavyweight champions from the 2000s. Apologies that it took me so long to finally get around to this installment of the series. Just 1 left to go. And from there I plan on making 2 additional videos based on the results in this series. But looking here again at the list for the 2000s, I think you could make a reasonable case to switch Valuev around with Byrd. And I likewise believe one can argue that Wladimir's ledger for the decade might perhaps edge Lennox out. But based on the criteria of this exercise, however, I personally believe this is the correct order myself. So what do you think of my 00's ranking? Please do share your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed and have a wonderful night. This is Rummy's Corner.